tear of joy came to her mother's face when she read the message high in the sky. Thanks, Mom. That made Maria's mom very happy.
Wow! That was a nice story, Grandfather Reed.
We all threw rocks into the canyon.
Pedro.
Pretty soon we wouldn't have
Maria's
a canyon,
mom
would we?
encouraged her over the years.
Now, as I was saying,
she
when you
helped
look at
her
the
reach her
canyon from this
dream
point,
of becoming a
Dropped your
pilot.
face!
What a great way to say thank you. With a message in the sky.
That's called skywriting, Pedro. Pilots
Hey, find the
really
nut.
can
Where's
write
the nut?
messages
Here's the
with
nut
their
round. She
airplane.
goes. Where? Are you
Just
sure you
like
want it?
in the book.
Okay, here we go. Can't see, don't know. Okay, time's
Would
up.
you
Gotta
like
go.
to see
Come
a
on, pick.
skywriter in
This
action?
one.
Here we go. First of all, Pedro, skywriters have to be very good pilots.
They have to be good spellers, too.
That's right, Pedro. Now let's watch this skywriter at work. The pilot has to do one letter at a time, carefully flying his plane back and forth, up and down, making sure each letter is just right.
Boy, I bet I would get dizzy making some of those letters.
Yes, the pilots have to concentrate on their work when they're skywriting.
Grandfather Reeds, how long does the message stay in the sky?
Well, it can stay in the sky several minutes, depending on how much the wind is blowing. A strong wind can blow all the smoke away pretty fast. But if it's a fairly calm day without much wind, it can stay there long enough for a lot of people to read.
Grandfather Reeds, if pilots can write words in the sky, can they draw pictures too?
Actually, they can, Pedro. Sometimes they'll make a smiley face or perhaps a heart, but either way, it always brings a smile to the people on the ground.
no throwing of rocks into the canyon. If we all threw rocks into the canyon, pretty soon we wouldn't have a canyon, would we? Now, as I was saying, when you look at the canyon from this point...
You dropped your face.
I'm using cotton balls to write my message. I think the cotton balls will look like the smoke coming out of a skywriter's airplane.
Hey, find the nut. Where's the nut? Here's the nut round. She goes. Where? Are you sure you want
That's
it?
looking
Okay,
good.
here we go. Can't see, don't know.
By
Okay,
the
time's
way,
up. Gotta go.
Do you
Come on,
know who
pick,
the
pick.
first
This one,
person was to fly an airplane? In this
Sorry,
book I
you
read at
lose.
the library, it said his name was
no throwing of rocks into the canyon. If we all threw rocks into the canyon, pretty soon we wouldn't have a canyon, would we? Now, as I was saying, when you look at the canyon from this point...
Propellers on them.
Dropped your
They
face.
built gliders.
I'll get you a new one.
Gliders are airplanes without engines or propellers. They took their gliders to North Carolina
Hey,
in a
find the
town
nut. Where's
called
the nut?
Kitty
Here's the nut
Hawk.
round. She goes. Where?
The Wright
Are you sure you
brothers
want
worked
it? Okay,
very
here we go.
hard
Can't see, don't know.
making
Okay,
their
time's up. Gotta
gliders.
go. Come on,
And
come on,
then
pick,
they
pick.
worked
This
even
one, this
harder,
one, this one.
trying to figure out how to put
Sorry,
an
you
engine on
lose.
them. But they did it.
no throwing of rocks into the canyon. If we all threw rocks into the canyon, pretty soon we wouldn't have a canyon, would we? Now, as I was saying, when you look at the canyon from this point...
By the wind.
Dropped your face.
The plane started
I'll get you a new
forward
one.
very slowly. Then it got off the ground. Orville was flying.
Hey, find the nut. Where's the nut? Here's the nut round. She goes. Where? Are you sure you want it? Okay, here we go. Can't see, don't know. Okay, time's up. Gotta go. Come on, pick, pick. This one, this one, this
Today,
one.
you can go to the exact spot in
Sorry,
Kitty
you
Hawk,
lose.
North Carolina, where the Wright brothers made that famous first airplane flight. The first successful flight of an airplane was made from this spot by Orville Wright. Wow, it's pretty cool. Then his brother Wilbur took a turn. Since they were brothers, they shared a lot of things. Their first flight wasn't very long. It went from there to there. And it only lasted 12 seconds. That's about the same time it takes this mom and daughter to race down the runway that the Wright brothers used on that first flight. It wasn't a very long flight, but it was a flight that girls and boys around the world would read about in school. But if you want to see the real plane that Mr. Wright flew, you'll have to come here to Washington, D.C. at the Air and Space Museum. There it is! The first airplane that a person ever flew. Wow, just look at it. That's the first plane to ever fly, and the Wright brothers built it. And look, there's Orville at the controls. Well, it's not really Orville, but they made it look just like he looked on that day in Kitty Hawk, when he became the first person to fly an airplane. If you ever get to Washington, D.C., you need to come by the Air and Space Museum and see this famous plane. At air museums, you can read a lot about other famous pilots too, like Bessie Coleman, the first black woman to get a pilot's license, and Amelia Earhart, the first woman to fly across the Atlantic Ocean.
Lauren, that looks good. Does that feel okay to you?
Yeah.
All right, looking good. Remember how this works?
Yup.
Oh, remember the gliders that the Wright brothers flew? Well, today, people still fly gliders from the same hills at Kitty Hawk where the Wright brothers flew their gliders. In fact, there are people there to teach you how you can fly a glider.
Remember how fast you ran on that first one? That was a good speed. Let's see if we can run that fast.
Oh, that looks like fun, at least for the students. The teachers have to do a lot of running alongside the gliders at first to make sure you are safe.
Good, John. Good. Accelerate now. Very nice. Faster. Faster.
Go! Have a safe flight. It takes a little practice to be able to fly a glider. The students have to do it again and again until one day they get to fly on their own, just like the Wright brothers.
Slow down traffic 739 Juliet, Charlie, back taxi, runway 9er.
Have you ever gone to the airport just to watch the airplanes? Most people go to the airport to fly somewhere, but it's sometimes nice just to go and watch them take off and land. At some airports, they let people do just that on a special day called an air show. That's what's going on at this airport. This is a small airport, but a lot of planes are flying in for the show. Do you notice something different about the runway the airplanes take off and land on? Is it made of concrete? No. That's right. This runway is made of grass. It's a grass runway. At one time, all runways used to be made of just grass fields, like in the days when the Wright brothers built their first airplanes. This is kind of nice seeing what airports used to look like, don't you think? There's a lot of things to see at an airport. That, for example, is a windsock. Pilots look at windsocks to see which way the wind's blowing. They like to take off and land with the wind blowing straight down the runway. Like cars, planes need gasoline to fly. That's what this woman is doing, filling up. And did you know that most times the gas tanks are in the wings?
This is where he sits when he flies by himself?
Airplanes that fly into small airports aren't very big. so pilots can easily pull them around. That's not to say that the planes that fly into small airports aren't fast. Just watch this one. Wow, that's a fast airplane. You'll see all different colors of airplanes at an air show. Red planes and blue planes, green planes and yellow planes. But no matter what color they are, they all fly pretty much the same. That's the rudder that's moving. The rudder makes the airplane point left or right. This part makes the airplane point up or down. And this part of the big wing lets the airplane make turns. You already know what the propeller does. It makes the airplane go fast through the sky. At air shows, sometimes helicopters show up. Unlike most airplanes, helicopters don't need a runway to land or take off from, and they can go in any direction, even straight up. I bet it'd be fun to be a helicopter pilot. Bye! Here's something else that takes off straight up. A hot air balloon. Big flames heat the air inside the big balloon, and that hot air makes the balloon rise up in the sky. Like airplanes, hot air balloons come in all colors. They're really beautiful to watch, and I imagine pretty neat to fly. Remember the gliders the boys and girls were flying at Kitty Hawk? Well, there are bigger gliders that airplanes pull up in the sky. Since gliders don't have engines, they need something to get them up in the air. Once they get high enough, the pilot lets go of the rope and off they sail. There is a lot to see at an air show. I hope you get a chance to go to one someday, or maybe read a great book about an air show. Maybe both.